What is going on, guys? I am Miguel from UCGym.com, and today I wanted to make a video discussing steroids, or also known as anabolic androgenic steroids. Now, I'm not going to get too far deep into what they are molecularly and that kind of thing because it does get pretty boring. So I'm just going to go for the sort of basic simplified version of what steroids are and what they do. So steroids are a synthetic version of the male hormone testosterone. Now, the males dominantly produce this hormone testosterone, and females have a slight production of testosterone, but their own hormone is estrogen. So females who consume steroids, which are synthetic versions of testosterone, they tend to take on male attributes and male traits because they're consuming the male trait hormone testosterone. So I have a list here so I stay on track as to what it is I'm going to say. And so first off, what they are, pretty much cover that. They're a synthetic version of the male growth hormone testosterone, and what they do is essentially they reduce the amount of time it takes for a muscle to recover after a workout, and they increase the potential amount of growth a muscle can have. So steroids generally, they increase the cell nuclei count of muscles, and they reduce the amount of time it takes to recover from a workout. So people who take steroids, 80% of them are not athletes or are not athletic. 80% of people who take steroids are your standard male man, maybe 25 to 35 years old, standard middle-aged man, and he's not athletic and none of that thing. So 80% of people who take steroids are not athletes. So this is sort of an indicator as to steroids aren't what you think they are. You don't see a large amount of the population just insanely muscular, insanely strong, just walking around. A lot of them, they take steroids and they don't know what they're for or how to abuse them or use them to their full potential. So steroids, since they do reduce the muscle soreness and reduce muscle recovery time, that gives a person the ability to work out more frequently and give them a greater chance to build more muscle, work out more often, and just in general build more strength and build more muscle and that kind of thing. And if you don't work out and you don't use the steroids what they're meant like for what they're for, you're not going to get any results, and you're not going to look like a person who takes steroids or a person who trains for many years and doesn't take steroids. So steroids aren't just this miracle drug that you inject it into your arm or into your butt or whatever, and just miraculously you grow a bunch of muscle. It takes a lot of work in order to actually grow the muscle. Now, the average person takes around 48 to 72 hours to recover from a workout. Their muscles, they just got broken down, they got micro tears in the fibers, and it takes around 2 to 3 days for that muscle to recover, rebuild, increase, and grow the size of the muscle tissue. But a person who's on steroids, they're able to grow that muscle more quickly because their recovery time is reduced to maybe around 24 hours. So they have 2 to 3 times greater recovery rate than people who don't take steroids. So next, they're banned in all major sports. Now, as of around the 1990s or 1980s, steroids were banned in all major sports. So in tennis, golf, football, basketball, soccer, baseball, every sport it was banned. Bodybuilding, powerlifting, weightlifting, anything in the Olympics, track, marathon running, it's banned in all of those. Even in the Tour de France, where Lance Armstrong got his medals revoked because he did test positive for steroids. So it's banned in all major sports, and in minor sports it may not be, but there is a potential that there is testing for it. So if you do plan to compete in any sport, you have to make sure that the tournament or the competition, whatever it may be, tests for drugs, because you don't want to be put up against people who are taking the steroids and they just have a very unfair advantage over you. So that's, it's one thing to look out for, is to make sure that whatever you're competing in, if you do plan to compete in anything, whether it be a sport or just anything really, just make sure that the competition is going to be regulated and you're not going to be facing against people who are unfairly getting an advantage over you. So next is on to the benefits of the steroids, the anabolic androgenic steroids, AAS. So here I have reduced muscle soreness, like I said, increased recovery, increased anabolic rate, and anabolic is the building of something. So you have an increased rate and increased potential to build muscle if you do take steroids. Next, increased testosterone. So steroids are testosterone. They're a synthetic version of it. Your body naturally produces testosterone. Now, if you take steroids, you have an increased amount of testosterone. Generally, the average dosage of testosterone will give you around 10 times more than what your body produces. Now, there are some athletes who take it to the extreme where they take 100 times more than the average amount of testosterone their body produces. Now, the more testosterone you take, the greater results you're going to get. So it's sort of that kind of thing. You have reduced muscular atrophy. So I've watched a couple of documentaries on steroids, and there is this one factor when it comes to the average person who's not on steroids, who weightlifts or trains or does anything athletic. There's two things that happens to your muscles. One, you have an anabolic building of muscle, and then secondly, you have a atrophy of muscle. So this is one thing I wasn't really sure of. I couldn't get too much research found discussing this kind of thing, because scientists aren't really sure as to why it happens or what it is. But in short, when you work out, there's a potential for you to lose muscle, because you are tearing the muscle, and the muscle can get smaller if you are tearing it, and you're putting it through a bunch of work. Now that sort of contradicts the whole hypertrophy thing, where if you tear muscle, it's going to rebuild and grow even more. But there is a potential for you to lose muscle when you work out, because you are tearing the muscle and you are putting it through its paces. So that's kind of one thing that steroids does, is it reduces muscular atrophy and increases muscular hypertrophy. So it's kind of a miracle drug, you know, but it's not safe, which I'll get to in a little bit. Next, you have increased cell nuclei for muscle growth. I already said that, where you get more cell nuclei found in your muscle fibers. So you have an increased amount of muscle in your body. Next, it helps, well, okay, this is for the average person. I was discussing about athletes and that kind of thing, but next is for the average people. So steroids weren't just made for bodybuilders and athletes right off the bat. It was just a drug discovered in Germany around 1940, 1930s. And this thing was made for people who had like testosterone deficiencies, or they had a stunted growth and that kind of thing. So steroids help people with muscular atrophy conditions and stunted growth and reduce testosterone production. So if you're a person who has low testosterone and you're, maybe 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, a doctor will prescribe you steroids so you have an increased amount of testosterone in your body. Now onto the dangers of steroids. Increased bad cholesterol. So steroids have this sort of effect on your body where they increase the amount of bad cholesterol in your body and they reduce the amount of good cholesterol in your body. So if I remember correctly, the low density cholesterol is the good one in your body, and the high density cholesterol, no, it's the other way. High density cholesterol is bad for your body, and low density cholesterol is good for your body, or the other way around. It's hard to remember, HDL and LDL. But next, increased risk of stroke. So strokes usually happen because you have a blockage in your arteries. Generally, it's cholesterol and other forms of plaque that will build up in the arteries, and they clog them up, and they reduce the amount of blood flow that goes through the arteries and leads to a stroke, whether it be in your brain, in any artery near your heart, or just anywhere in your body. A stroke can be very bad for you because you're not supplying your body's tissues with blood and oxygen and water and other nutrients, which is really bad. So increased risk of stroke. And there are links between people who suffered from strokes and people who took steroids, so that's one thing to look out for. Next is accelerated balding, increased male attributes. So if you're a female and you take testosterone, you're going to get male attributes. So you are going to get, you're going to grow more facial hair, you're going to get a deeper voice, you're going to grow just male parts. Testicular atrophy. So there's a whole thing where they say your balls shrink if you take steroids or you take the juice. And it's true. Your testicles, they're one of the major organs in your body that produce testosterone. And if you're introducing in your body steroids, which are synthetic testosterone, your body sends a signal to the testicles saying that it doesn't need to produce any more testosterone, and essentially the testicles are going to shrink because they're not needed anymore, really. So you are supplying your body with an external source of testosterone, which your body really shouldn't be doing, and they start shrinking, and it's an irreversible side effect of steroids. And finally, potential for mood swings, or also increased chance for kidney and liver failure and tumor development. So in the National Geographic documentary I watched on anabolic steroids yesterday, there were various people who got tumors and cysts on their kidneys and liver because of the steroids, because it has this effect on the organs where it sort of what's that word? It manipulates them into thinking that they have to do one thing and they don't have to do it, and it's just this whole amalgamation of different things that the steroids affect with the body. So if you do take steroids, maybe 10, 20, 15 later, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30 years later after taking steroids, the effects sort of build up. Now there was many cases in which this was proven and documented where steroids, they didn't provide any harm in the beginning and a couple years post consuming the steroids, but long-term after effects, very detrimental. Many people suffer from strokes and that kind of thing, and potential for mood swings. There's this whole misconception that people get roid rage from taking steroids, and many studies showed that this isn't necessarily the case. If you do have pre-existing mental conditions where you are emotionally unstable or mentally unstable, and you do take steroids, it sort of does trigger a greater release of these sort of anger hormones or anger endorphins, that kind of thing, and you may get potentially more angry, or just get the rage that some people say that you might get if you do take steroids. That's only if you have a pre-existing condition, and yeah. And then finally I have my thoughts on steroids. So a guy named James Willems from Funhouse sort of made a good point, saying that if you were to take steroids and you wanted to participate in a sport, the only thing you'd have to do is like have a badge on your shoulder or anything like that, indicating that you do take steroids. I think it'd be a good idea for people to actually know if you are taking steroids and you do have an unfair advantage over the competition. Steroids do have their place if you feel like you're lagging behind and you want to get ahead of another person. Then steroids are pretty much the quick answer for it. I heard a really good analogy discussing these performance-enhancing drugs. If you were a Harvard student and you just got a scholarship and you started taking classes and you feel like there's no way you're going to pass and you're not going to get your degree, you're not going to be able to maintain good grades and that kind of thing. If there was a drug you could take that would increase your performance, your academic performance, and give you an edge over everyone else and make sure that you graduate valedictorian of your class and that kind of thing, it's a pretty clear-cut answer that a person would take that drug. If you were working at, let's say, McDonald's or something, and you and your fellow employees are putting in the work, but you feel like you're lagging behind, and your other employees, your fellow employees, are getting paid more than you because they are putting in more work, and you're just doing everything you can, and you can't necessarily get up to their level, and your salary is not going to be up to par compared to theirs, since they are working harder. And there's this drug you can take that's just going to take you to the next level, just leave everyone in the dust. You're putting in a lot more work, and it's just going to make you more money. It's kind of a clear-cut answer where you're going to do anything you can in your power to be better than anyone else, get an unfair advantage over everyone, and just win at, whatever it may be. So with sports, it's kind of a clear-cut answer. Taking steroids gives you an edge over everyone else, but at a point in your career, you're not going to be able to continue taking the steroids and just take them forever and just get an advantage over everyone forever. It's just not that kind of thing. A football player for like Notre Dame or something, he just got accepted, starts playing football, takes steroids because he wants to get an advantage over everyone else. He gets drafted into the NFL. He gets tested positive for steroids. His career's over. He can't compete in any sport because he's known for taking steroids. And since steroids are illegal to be, anabolic steroids are illegal to be illegally consumed, he might go to prison for that. Taking steroids illegally is also a legal issue. You can go to jail, and you're also affecting your health. But to each his own. Pick your poison, do whatever you want to do. But it's a whole moral issue if you want to be a cheater and just have an unfair advantage over everyone else. So that's pretty much it. In conclusion, steroids can be good short term, very bad long term. You can be on top of the world for the couple of years you're taking steroids or whatever sport it is you're competing. After you retire, you're gonna die much more quickly than if you were to not have taken any steroids, and you're just gonna regret whatever it is you did. But you might not. It's up to you. Taking steroids can be good for you, can be bad for you. It's just up to you, but yeah. So if you haven't seen the last video, I'll have an annotation on the screen and link in the description. You can click to go watch it. Check out our website, UCGym.com, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and share this video to everyone you know so you can help us grow. And yeah, so I'll see you guys next time.
Knowledge.